Why does Islam appear fundamentally violent and seek to eradicate other religions? And for this, why it is often pointed towards historical conquest, contemporary extremism, and their specific religious verses. Further, is it true that Islam normally flourishes in underdeveloped societies and unstructured cultures? Let us dissect these a little bit. Islam emerged in 7th century Arabia in a specific historical and political context when tribal conflicts and religious divisions were rampant. The Middle East, where Judaism, Christianity, and Islam originated, was a region characterized by limited resources, tribal rivalries, and harsh desert that demanded group loyalty and cohesion. This bred a culture of exclusivity and working in a limited socio religious spectrum, which ultimately emerged in one true faith: our God is the only God. This led to a mindset that often seeks to spread and dominate and often confronts the general pluralistic approach. Further, in Islam, like Christianity, there is a sense of urgency about salvation and judgment, leading some to feel obligated to save others. Thus, religion often becomes politics, culminating in leaders using the religion as a unifying or controlling force. Accordingly, early Islamic conquest led to the rapid spread of religion, but this was not purely about religious elimination. Political and territorial expansion was a major driving factor. After Prophet Muhammad's death in 632 CE, the Rashidun Caliphate and later the Umayyad expanded rapidly through military conquest. And in just a few decades, they took Persia, parts of Byzantine Empire, Syria and Egypt, North Africa and Spain, mainly due to these areas becoming politically weak due to long conflicts. The goal was often political control, not forced religious conversion, and many non Muslims, especially Christians, Jews, and Zoroastrians, were allowed to practice their faith under dhimmi status but had to pay the jizya tax. However, the fierce Islamic sword soon confronted the stone walls of the developed societies. In Europe, both in the East and West, it was a remnant of the Byzantine and Roman empires, and in Asia, particularly in China, they faced the civilization centric Chinese, whose Confucianism was not a faith but was a system of ethics, governance, and social harmony. However, in India, Hinduism was not a single book based religion, it was a collection of beliefs, practices, and philosophies that absorbed everything: Buddhism, Jainism, Islam, Christianity, and Zoroastrianism without ever feeling the need to eliminate others. The concept of truth is ingrained in Indian thought, making exclusive religious practice irrelevant to most Indians. Gradually, the Islamic sword provided access and reach, and over century conversion became more natural and voluntary. Further, most of the conquered world was located at intersection of major trade and migration routes connecting the Middle East, North Africa, Persia, and South Asia, that is Indian subcontinent, which facilitated the easy access for Muslim merchants to dominate, which was followed by his revered Sufi saints and teachers, spreading Islam through local adaptation and a spiritual connection rather than conquest. And the soft Islam, over time, they assimilated deep into the immature and vulnerable society, particularly in coastal areas of East Africa, Southeast Asia, and the parts of China. People embraced Islam because it integrated into their local life, not because it was imposed. And in due course, Islam became a cultural and intellectual force, not just a political one, and they contributed immensely to the evolution of the Islamic Golden Age, especially under the Abbasid Caliphate 750 to 1258, which also coincided with the Baghdad rise as a global intellectual hub. This era produced scholars like Al-Farabi, Ibn Sina, Al-Razi, and Al-Qazimi, combining Greek, Persian, and Indian knowledge with Islamic thoughts. However, both hard and soft Islamists, when confronted with the developed and mature societies and cultures, face the unbreakable roadblock and sometimes reverses. The Reconquista of Iberian Peninsula in Spain and Portugal, where Muslim rule, that is Al-Andalus, lasted nearly 800 years, from 711 to 1492, was ultimately reversed. The Christian kingdom in the north, Asturias, Leon, Castile, and Aragon, maintained their identity and resisted over centuries as the cultural absorption was partial. While Al-Andalus was beacon of science, architecture, and coexistence, The underlying Christian cultural identities survived, and once the Christian kingdoms gained military strength, they reasserted their culture and religious dominance. And as Islam was not deeply embedded enough across the entire society, it was uprooted once the political power shifted. The powerful Tang dynasty limited the spread of Islam beyond Western China. Though there were Muslim communities through trade, but China was a hard shell civilization with a deeply entrenched bureaucratic state, Confucian values, and cultural continuity. Unlike Persia, which was devastated with the prolonged wars with Byzantines and internal strife before the Arab Muslim conquest, China had a robust administrative system that even the Mongols chose to adapt rather than replace. Kublai Khan founded the Yuan dynasty 1271 to 1368 and ruled as a Chinese emperor, aligning more with the Chinese tradition than with the Islam or other Mongol khanates. He embraced Buddhism, Confucian governance to stabilize his rule over the vast Chinese population rather than imposing a foreign religion. But in contrast, other Mongol khanates became Muslim. The Mongols in the Khanate Persia adopted Islam relatively quickly because they were integrated into a region where Islam was already deeply rooted. For them, the Persian culture was highly influential and Islam offered a unifying framework. In the Golden Horde, Russia and Central Asia, they adopted Islam as they settled among Turkic and Islamic population, which facilitated their rule and assimilation. Chagatai Khanate Central Asia, Islam was already spreading along the Silk Road, and the Mongols assimilated into these predominantly Muslim society. Essentially, the Mongol rulers adapted the religion of the society that they ruled. In the Indian subcontinent, it was altogether a different scene. Here, hard Islam pushed very fast in the north. But in coastal and Deccan sultanates, soft Islam propagated slowly over the time. But the long matured cultural and religious system absorbed it smoothly in their own system without fuss, maintaining their own identity and exclusivity. Over the period, the balance of power shifted between the religious society. But throughout the medieval period, there were fierce battles, even between religion of the book like Islam and Christianity. They fought each other in a series of crusading wars. But with the advancement of science and technology in Christian society in the West, they understood the unnecessary wastage of wealth and time, and they kept themselves equipped just enough to face the barbaric threat from the socio-religious backward society. But the fall of Baghdad was never compensated for, and most of the Islamic societies went backward into oblivion and started floating under the dream of past achievement. And in today's world, some of these religious people of the book, particularly Islamists like IS, Tablighi Jamaat, etc., still want to sell their old views and crusading agendas. And the people with the limited visionary spectrum adore them. Are they not wasting their energy and time on dead things that had drastically failed in the past? Why do these religions not open their boundaries and stretch themselves in an unknown horizon where societies based on artificial intelligence have plenty to work on environmental and sustainability issues than to think for a real salvation?